These tragedies have reminded us that words matter and that the power of life and death is in the tongue. Barry C. Black, chaplain of the U.S. Senate, prayed these words late into the evening on the day that Capitol Hill was stormed. His prayer speaks theological truth and names the reality that many have dismissed for so long. Words matter. They have the power to hurt and to heal. They have the power to influence for good or for evil. They have the power to create or destroy. In the beginning, God spoke, and the world came into being. In Jesus' baptism, the heavens tore open with God's speech and revealed the divine in the presence of this human, in flesh and in blood. In baptism, God continues to speak in order to restore us all to the new creation, the reign of God where all people find their place and justice rolls down like water. Words matter. They matter when countries jockey for place on the world stage, assuming that they are in the right and everyone else should get in line behind them. They matter on the national levels when our leaders posture to maintain their own power by deflecting criticism onto the other guy. They matter in our communities and in our schools when one thoughtless comment models that some are in and some are out. Words matter on social media when we post thoughtless memes that dismiss another's experience without having really listened to what they are saying, all because we feel threatened. Even the things we speak in our heads matter. The power of life and death are on the tongue. The power of life and death are in the things we speak and the things we write. It's easy to say that it is easy to see that in the world events that happened this last week, but it is also harder to see it in our own actions. And so I tell you a story that happened here in Saskatchewan, the story of Isabel and her ribbon skirt, a handmade skirt traditionally worn for Indigenous ceremonies by women and girls. This story of Isabel shows us just how much words matter. Chris Kulak, Isabella's father, says he could tell something was wrong when his daughter got home from school. He says the educational assistant told the grade 5 student that her mismatched skirt and shirt weren't fit for formal day. The assistant said Isabella should have worn an outfit similar to that of another student who was wearing a store-bought dress. She was shamed for her traditional wear. Isabella's aunt took to social media and asked women around the globe to wear their ribbon skirts to show Isabella that the ribbon skirt could be worn with pride. Her words started a movement, and January 4th became a day of healing for her. From around the world, women and men wore their ribbon skirts and shirts and posted pictures encouraging Isabella. The school, instead of deflecting the criticism and denying the hurt that Isabella faced, creating more hurt, worked together towards reconciliation. On Isabella's first day back to school after the holidays, a march was held to walk her to school, culminating in a ceremony. Women wore their ribbon skirts. Men wore their ribbon shirts. A drum group performed and chiefs from the surrounding First Nations attended. It could have ended differently. Isabella could have internalized those words and not told anyone, allowing those words to hurt and harm herself. Her family could have held the words inside and turned that hurt into anger. The school could have ignored the words, saying they were only just words, not really important. Instead, the words of truth were spoken, and they took on the power of healing. Words may destroy, but words also can be turned into life. In the words of forgiveness and love, God is found. Your words matter. My words matter. And if we were able to hide our heads in the sand before now, after the events of this week, we can no longer. Words that pit us against them divide us from other of God's children. Words that deflect our responsibility for harm in order to protect our long-held assumptions about ourselves have the danger of leading to anger and violence down the road. Words that dismiss others' lived experiences because we are uncomfortable hearing it are words that are used to keep us in bondage. Yet God's word abides. God's word tears open the heavens as on that day of Jesus' baptisms and shows us how destructive our words are. God's word breaks through the pain, anger, and violence and names forgiveness in the person of Jesus Christ. God's word takes our most destructive words and brings new life to them. Make no mistake, that does not dismiss the fact that our words can and often do bring as much destruction as the ones we saw played out on Capitol Hill, even if we do not witness them. It's also just as true that our words are not the end of the story. God's word transforms our death-seeking and life-destroying words and creates new life. Recall the words of the psalmist that we heard and that we spoke at the beginning of the service. The voice of the Lord is a powerful voice. The voice of the Lord is a voice of splendor. The voice of the Lord is upon the waters. In the waters of baptism, all of our words bow down to the one whose word, Jesus Christ, speaks forgiveness and healing. Thanks be to God.